Alright guys, we can just totally throw away our 2025 bingo cards because this year is a mess. We've got Katy Perry going to space, everyone is excited to learn that the Birkin is made in China, and apparently being rich is the new crime. Like, what is going on here? So to kind of put this into context, because guys, this is a very rich topic, yes, pun intended, we first kind of have to see there's an online trend right now, and there's a growing resentment towards displays of wealth. And that's coming across a multitude of factors, which we're going to dive into today, both with what's going on environmentally, politically, economically, and just how, divided social media is when it comes to these displays of wealth and luxury. So what we're seeing is a shift from more aspirational content to more relatable content, because a lot of content creators lately have been getting a lot of backlash, a lot of outrage over what they thought was just fun, harmful posts. Recently, we've seen, and these are just the few that come to my mind, Coachella. There was a lot of influencer backlash over Coachella. First of all, you had the girl bragging about spending $1,000 at dinner at Nobu, when a lot of people are probably skipping meals to pay for their rent. You had the young kid who wanted to decorate his tent space, but he would literally have to put everything back in his SUV when he went out to the events because he didn't want his stuff stolen. Most surprisingly, in 2025, there was a young lady who was bragging about spending $2,000 a week just on caviar, which is kind of giving Alexis Carrington energy, if you ask me. But there's such a divide when it comes to social media because it's kind of mirroring both aspects. We're seeing the aspirational, the wealth on display, the rich flex, if you will. But then we're also, one swipe away from seeing the mom who's creating an entire Thanksgiving meal for her family out of ingredients from Dollar Tree. So from going from spending over six figures, more than what most Americans are making these days, on caviar, to then spending, $20 on an entire Thanksgiving meal, we're seeing a huge disconnect from the content creators and their audience, and they're starting to feel the shift. Trust me, you're going to be seeing a lot more relatable content in social media. This isn't just relegated to content creators. We're also seeing major luxury design houses feeling this shift, feeling this push towards more quiet luxury. I know that is a term that we've really abused, but for the sake of this argument, this discussion, if you will, we're going to be using it quite a bit today because it's going to come in handy here in just a moment. But when it comes to quiet luxury, we're focusing on less logos, less branding, so less in your face, less flashy, if you will. We're focusing on materials, the cut, the construction, and we're thinking of brands like Loro Piana, Brunello Cucinelli, The Row, Celine. All of these brands, they kind of favor that more minimalist, less in your face, stealth wealth, if you will. Essentially, quiet luxury was born out of necessity. Before the housing crisis in 07-08, inconspicuous consumption and wealth was constantly in our face, whether it was the New York businessman with his gold and diamond cufflinks, or socialite figures like Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie, just constantly on display, full of logos, flaunting wealth, always in our face. And then when the housing crisis hit and that kind of wealth inequality was really put, under a magnifying glass, we shifted towards more quiet luxury pieces. In fact, not only was it like a subconscious of the wearer, but brands like Louis Vuitton even canceled collections like the Suhali collection. Back then, a $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 handbag, that was a big price point. So collections like this, which, have the hardware, the quality materials, were then canceled in favor for less splashy items. So in a way, quiet luxury was used as a way for the wealthy to kind of opt out of these, hype trends and kind of appear like the normal person, but still have like those brand signals that let people within their class know who they were. Like, it's all about signals these days, not so much logos and, being covered in LVs or wearing your Hermes Evelyn backwards so everyone can see the H. It's about the signal, right? Fast forward to today, how else are brands kind of opting into this recession core? They're trying to appeal more every day by pairing up with everyday brands. Think, for example, Dior and Birkenstock, or Gucci and the North Face, or most famously, Louis Vuitton and Supreme. And this was kind of a way for these brands to still opt into being, seen as more everyday, but still opt into like the hype, the splash, and all that goes with that, which is so important to luxury marketing. We're also seeing more marketing through relatability. And what do I mean by this? Well, you have to think of like Loewe and Bottega Veneta, who are showing their products in more like everyday real life settings, or when it comes to houses like Burberry, who's opted for using more real life people within their ad campaigns. And case in point with Burberry, what I'm thinking about right now is the Burberry doctors. These are two doctors from here in the States that have been buying Burberry for years. They have this massive collection of Burberry. The brand recognizes that. And this is kind of their answer to beating that untouchable glam that they've always given us by giving us more relatable everyday people and everyday situations. We're also seeing a shift, and I think YSL kind of pioneered this, if you will, when it comes to like normcore pieces. We're thinking like logoed water bottles and yoga mats and canvas totes, like literally their entire gift collection leans into this whole normcore aesthetic. We're also seeing brands offer more experiences. Like, what design house doesn't have some sort of a coffee house experience anymore? Like Louis Vuitton has a coffee house, Coach even has a coffee house. Like, it seems like all these luxury brands are in a way kind of offering more everyday products, everyday experiences to kind of help keep engaged with the customer who's aspirational, wants to be part of the brand, but can only afford like a cup of coffee and maybe a piece of chocolate, or in the case of many design houses, designer makeup. That is a huge category. Even LV has teamed up with Pat McGrath to develop their own cosmetics line. Literally name one major design house that doesn't have a cosmetics line or a line of fragrances. I'm waiting. You can't do it. And why are luxury brands doing this? Well, it's going to soften the look of luxury. It's all a carefully planned strategic response to the backlash. People are suspicious of wealth, and they don't want their brands to look like symbols of greed, but rather symbols of taste. Yes, go and spend that $500 on a Brunello t-shirt. Mark Zuckerberg does. Now, why am I asking these questions today? Why did I do this deep dive? Well, before I dive into that, I should first introduce myself. Hey guys, my name's Caleb. I post luxury and lifestyle content here on YouTube and over my website, curated by caleb.com. If you're looking for a little bit more behind the scenes access, members meetups, the discords, consider joining my membership. A link will be down below. Just click join or use that QR code if you're on your TV. Why am I asking these questions? Well, first of all, I was exposed to the fact that the luxury community is not in a vacuum. What do I mean by that, guys? So I recently posted my Birkin Made in China video, which, spoiler alert, it's not. No matter what you say, it's not made in China. A lot of people that commented on that video, yes, I got a handful of like the normal names that you see here in the luxury community, but exhaustingly, the majority of the over 1,000 comments that I received were people I've never seen before here in the luxury space. They were all incredibly gleeful to kind of try and rub in my face that my Birkin might have been made in China, which we all know not to be true. If this had been a couple of years ago, everyone was worshiping the Birkin. Cardi B has 1,000 Birkins. You have all these celebrities, socialites with rooms full of Birkins that everyone was just fawning over. And now we're all excited to maybe think that, you know, all of these people have been duped and they were buying, you know, bags made in China. And it kind of made me ask myself, but are people feeling betrayed by the illusion of exclusivity? I think that when it comes to luxury purchases, yes, the price point is overinflated. We all know it doesn't cost $10,000 to make a Birkin. We are well aware of that. Granted, you know, just the production cost is what a lot of people were focusing on, but there's also the marketing, all the splashy ad campaigns, the billboards, the packaging, the employee salaries, the rent for the very expensive footprint that Hermes has. But I think a lot of people were shaken to their core, mostly because it kind of pulled back the veil of exclusivity, where we bought into the storyline of, oh, you know, this was handmade by a single artisan, which hasn't been the truth since 2008. It's more of an assembly line process. This is made of the finest materials, and only those, you know, worthy enough on the wait list or who've played the game can be allowed to buy a Birkin. The thought that it might have been made in China, this $10,000 handbag might have been made in China or mass made, kind of, it felt like a trick was kind of played on us, right? Like for that brief moment where we're like, wait a minute, what if? Like, what is the true value of it being made in France? That's a much bigger conversation for another day. But it also kind of made us ask, like, is this still exclusive? Listen, all of these luxury houses, they are growing at exponential rates. The demand for luxury is the biggest that it's ever been. To think that, oh my gosh, you know, what if the French workshops couldn't keep up with the demand and they were outsourcing some of the production? Is this bag still worth $10,000? And like I said before, we've got a lot of brands which are now pumping out coffee shops, they're pumping out makeup, lower priced items. Is this still luxury? It feels like everybody can now access it. Is it still luxury? So you can't be everywhere and still be rare, and you can't expand endlessly and still be elite. It almost gaslights the consumer into asking themselves, maybe I'm not buying into the history, the construction, the quality, maybe I'm buying into a lie. So when it comes to wealth on display, the biggest spectacle that we've seen in the last few weeks was that Blue Origin space flight, where we sent up a pop star who hasn't had a commercially successful album since 2013. I said what I said, save space. A couple of journalists, Gayle King, Lauren Sanchez, and a filmmaker. Apparently they're astronauts now. So that's cool. That's a thing. Is celebrity space travel, is it inspiring or is it grotesque? And it's hard to not be inspired when we have visuals like this.
Taking up space!
Okay. And then my question is, have y'all been to space?
I feel super connected to love.
And when I look at that, I can't help but say to myself, you know what, Caleb? It's time you go into space. It's time to be an astronaut. Like, be so for real. Is sending celebrities into space, these millionaires and billionaires, is it just harmless fun or is it a grotesque spectacle? This wasn't a scientific mission. This wasn't a humanitarian mission. This was just rich people having fun. Basically what it says to the public, I'm going to space because I'm bored with yachts, when many people are working 2 jobs just to survive. It comes across as incredibly tone deaf, and it highlights the wealth inequality in the most massive of ways. And instead of actually doing something meaningful, instead of actually helping someone out who needs it, they basically just went up and took zero gravity selfies. Let's call it what it is. It was a farce. It just highlights that both younger millennials and Gen Z, they value impact. Like, they want something meaningful to happen, not just displays of excess and wealth. Like, I cannot tell you the last time I cared about what someone wore on a red carpet. Yes, of course we have to talk about it here in the luxury space and the fashion space here on YouTube. But like, the last time I actually cared what someone was wearing, a borrowed gown by the way, doesn't mean anything to me anymore. Like, I want to see these celebrities using their platforms to incite meaningful, positive change. We are at a time right now in our history that's unprecedented. We have a lot of political stuff going on here in the States, economic crisis. The world is literally on fire. Why are we sending an almost irrelevant pop star and Gayle King into space? Like, what did that help do? What did that improve?
2 of the astronauts, I still have a hard time calling myself an astronaut.
Excuse me, they're astronauts now. I get it. Whose life did this improve? Who did this inspire? Like, was this even inspiring? Was floating around in space with a daisy around your face when you should have been looking out the window at least? Who was this for other than just like a mass marketing appeal for Blue Origin? Be so serious. Also, we have to kind of discuss the environmental irony here that's at play, because we're sending these celebrities into space. Now, I know that the byproduct created by Blue Origin is just like water droplets, but listen, that still has, an effect on the environment. You're punching another hole through the ozone layer, which, hello, we kind of need. It puts a magnifying glass on the fact that all of these billionaires are like, well, late stage capitalism, we sucked all we can out of the earth. Let's look to space now. Let's leave Earth and all the peons down here and just go up into space. The Earth's on fire. Let's just go up into space. I can't name one person here on Earth that I know personally that could afford to go to space. So this really just highlights the disconnect between billionaire adventures and fun time and actual real world struggles. And that's a problem. It's a PR nightmare. It is a problem. So what caused this shift? How did we go from worshiping wealth and luxury products and visual displays of overabundance to being completely turned off by it? Like, what actually has happened here? What I keep bringing up is economic inequality and displays of wealth on social media. Social media, it's on everything. We see it on our phones. We see it on our TVs. You literally have to delete all of these apps and kind of relearn not going to them to avoid it. It's on your Instagram, it's on your TikTok, it's on your Pinterest, it's on your YouTube. Probably just watching me right now with the Birkin behind me could qualify as another overabundant display of wealth, even though I'm not wealthy. But what we have to recognize is that the rich flex is no longer aspirational. Because for the longest time, showing off, the designer unboxings, the whether it was fake or not, the selfies on private jets, people are no longer viewing that as aspirational. It's completely unrelatable and tone deaf. So what originally started out when we were viewing this kind of content were the thoughts of, well, if I work hard enough, if I hustle, if I get that second or third side job, then maybe one day I too will be sitting on that private jet, flying off to Paris and having my own $40,000 Hermes Paris haul. Like, maybe one day that could be me. But now we're just kind of like, you're rubbing it in our faces. Like, shut up. You're just rubbing this in our faces. And that's for a lot of different reasons. When it comes to this economic inequality, we're We're looking at things like wages have stagnated. We're making what we were years ago, but with, the cost of everything rising, we can't afford to live like we did just 5, 6 years ago. And even myself, I've felt that pinch. I'm like, I go to the grocery store now and I'm picking like brands that I didn't used to, or I'm looking at the prices and I'm like, oh my gosh, is that what this costs now in 2025? That is absolutely insane. It's just like a crazy whiplash of all these different ideas. You've got one side of the internet is giving you these crazy designer unboxings. The other side is struggling to make 2 or 3 jobs last, paycheck to paycheck. Like the divide is just, it's getting bigger and it's becoming more magnified. It's becoming more obvious. It's almost unavoidable at this point. In my mind, kind of sometimes when I'm watching, I'm not going to name names, but you have these creators on here who are constantly doing like the big, fabulous unboxings. And yeah, they're fun to watch. But at a point, it just kind of goes from being, luxury porn, sugary visuals to just late stage capitalism on blast. Like sometimes it's kind of depressing to be here on YouTube. I fall into that camp where, if I'm not in a great mental state and then I watch someone's like fabulous, month-long trip through Paris, then I'm kind of like, what did I do wrong with my life? Like what what am I doing? Like, comparison is the thief of joy, and it's because social media makes wealth look easy, and that is so dangerous. So we're seeing these fabulous shopping trips and shopping sprees and massive hauls and passive income advice that doesn't apply to the normal person. But all that does is it flattens the reality because we're not seeing the generational wealth, the inherited privilege, the nepotism that helped them get to where they are. What we're just seeing is, like, I manifested this and you can too. It's not that easy for a lot of people. And we're seeing this shift in the tone from admiring to auditing. People are getting called out. They're being held accountable. We're seeing all of these memes, and it's not just memes, it's also in the comments. Like if you go into like any unhinged TikTok video, the comments are where it's at. Forget the video. Like I could care less what your TikTok is about. I'm in the comments and the comments never disappoint. That's also why I'm partially afraid to post on TikTok because they don't hold back over there. They don't. And I think at the end of the day, that this shift is what's kind of inspiring both social media content creators from going from aspirational to relatable. We're seeing it in luxury designer fashions and accessories where we're going from that in-your-face splashy more is more excess to the quiet, the signals. And it's also helping the wealthier people hide. Like, look, Mark Zuckerberg's outfit, I think someone did the math, it's several $1,000s. Yes, he looks schleppy and like any other tech bro who just rolled out of bed in his college dorm. But at the end of the day, that Brunello Cucinelli t-shirt is not free. It's not cheap either. And we have to ask ourselves, what does all of this say about status and luxury now? In 2025, the world is a mess. Our politics are laughable. The economy not doing great. What does all that say about wealth and status at this point? Is luxury still about quality? Like, I know a lot of people, myself included, I love collecting these things. I love buying something because it's beautifully made. It has a story. It has that romance language that marketing relies on so heavily. But I also appreciate my things because, the Birkin, it's a time-honored craft since 1984. It's a beautiful process. Yes, I know it didn't cost them $10,000 to create. Is luxury still about the quality or is it about the signal? Did you buy your Birkin because it's a time-honored craft made by a beautiful design house in France? Or did you want to flex and show off that you could buy the $10,000 Birkin? What camp do you fall in with your Birkin? And has quiet luxury, has it emerged because of all this hate? Well, part of it has to do with the hate and being able to hide, if you will, opt out of the hype culture. But it also has to deal with the more conservative values that we're kind of entering right now when it comes to, conservative with our economy, conservative politics, conservative this, conservative that. So it's kind of a two-part answer to that. And yes, shows like Succession helped make quiet luxury popular, but quiet luxury's been there all along, and it definitely pops up when the money's not flowing as easily as it used to for some people. The wealthy will generally always stay wealthy, and they need to be able to hide that so that way they don't, bring on the scorn or the judgment from the people who might have lost a lot during uncertain economic times. As we're seeing this shift in culture and values and what we're willing to accept, especially when we're constantly being fed this feed here on social media, is luxury evolving or is it being rejected altogether? I want to get a conversation going, and I am not here to defend the billionaires. Trust me. Is this criticism towards wealth and luxury status and displays of excess, is it fair? Or are we just truly mad at the broken system that some people were lucky and benefited by? Let me know down in the comments. I'm curious to have a conversation with you guys. But I am interested in this cultural shift. Like, where is this going for us? Where is this going for luxury? Where is this going for content creation that's based around luxury? What do we see coming next down the pipeline? Because listen, we are at uncertain times. There's a fork in the road ahead, and we don't know where either road is leading. And it's going to be interesting to see where content creation and luxury goes after all this. Let's get a conversation going, you guys. Please keep it respectful. A lot of folks forgot that in my Hermes Made in China video. So let's dial it back a little bit and actually have a conversation, because I think at the end of the day, we can learn from one another. And I think that's the most important part of content creation is learning, sharing information and ideas. And, you know, maybe something I thought was right is actually wrong. So let's have that conversation down below. I'd love to hear from you guys. Until next time, stay safe, have fun. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.